Hello everybody, my name is MJ Dos Santos and this is my REHUGO Project TED Talk. I'm an AP Lang Period 5 in the year 2025. Okay, so here's my table of contents, with everything that I'm going to discuss for this presentation. As you can see, I'm going to intro my REHUGO question and why I chose it, then we'll get into the answer to the question, next are additional findings I made as my research evolved, and finally is the research process and the project conclusion. So this is my research question. How have streaming services changed the way that we interact with media, and what does it mean for media preservation? The reason I chose this question was because I'm really interested in media, and the ways that we interact with it have changed over time, and as my research developed, I began to learn more and more about a cultural opposition to streaming services and the monopolization of media. So we're going to start off with the answer to my question. How have streaming services changed the way we interact with media? The answer to that is that media has become more accessible, in a way. Thousands of titles from varying producers, creators, and cultures are collected in one spot for a yearly or monthly price, and it's incredible. However, you are limited by the content offered by the services you pay for, and prices between services can vary wildly. In order to see how things have changed, I think we need to take a step back into how things used to be. When interacting with media, it used to be that most of the time, shows and movies were purchased or rented physically, on VHS and later DVD. Before it was a streaming service, Netflix was a monthly DVD service, where you would pay a monthly fee to receive DVDs mailed to your home. Music was purchased one song or album at a time, and physical buildings like Radio Shack and Video Shack were where people would purchase DVDs from a wide selection. So what changed? To evaluate changes, I'm going to look at three different things. Preservation, where I'll address that when services own their own content, they decide what happens to it. Consumption, or asking when you can wait to read and watch the whole series, what does that mean for sales and perceived profit? And finally, representation, or asking that when most streaming services are based in America, whose voices aren't being heard. Starting with licensing as it relates to media preservation. When a streaming service produces their own content, it means that they alone own the rights to it. This means that if they choose to discontinue or cancel their own products, they can do so, and no one else has the right to stream their content legally. Some examples of this include series like Firefly, The Sandman, and Heartstopper. Another medium that's been affected by streaming services is the comic book industry. Since streaming services often provide entire seasons and shows all at once, people have begun to appreciate being able to consume an entire storyline without having to wait for the next episode. This mindset has begun to influence the way people consume comic books and graphic novels. Instead of purchasing comic books one issue at a time as they're released, people have begun waiting until every issue is released to purchase the collected edition. While this might not seem like a big deal, this sort of purchasing can make it look like a comic series isn't performing well, because people aren't purchasing issues as they come out. This can lead to highly anticipated series being canceled before their completion, because it looks like they aren't selling. Another aspect of streaming services that offer comic books, like Marvel Unlimited, is that many novels are no longer being printed physically, meaning that if they were ever deleted by the provider, or if the provider suffered a network issue, they would be lost forever. Another thing that's changed in streaming services is the way that media is recommended to people. As algorithms and recommendations become personalized, it can be very easy to consume the same kind of story over and over, which can lead to viewers having a narrowed mindset or misconceptions regarding a group of people, a place, or an identity. Some examples of this are certain cop shows and the movie Split. This phenomenon has been concisely described by media expert Dr. Amanda Lotz of Queensland University of Australia, who said that streaming services have changed which stories we have access to. And now, onto my research developments. As streaming services begin to encompass more and more of the media available to watch, some people are wary of what it means for the future of media, or the cost paid by the consumer. These developments have led to media piracy. Media piracy has existed since the birth of the internet in the 1970s and 80s, and has been used as a way for individuals to share files with one another. Sometimes this is done to combat the deleting and sometimes censorship of media, and other times this is done to avoid paying fees to services that provide a movie or show someone wants to watch. It's important to know that under most circumstances, media piracy is illegal in most countries. There is, however, a debate surrounding the ethics of media piracy as a tool for preservation of media. Organizations like the Internet Archive strive to preserve and protect media used by everyone for all time, and have conducted massive preservation efforts to that end. Other organizations, like BitTorrent and the Pirate Bay, allow people to share links and files with one another. Oftentimes, this is media that they do not own or have the license to share. These links and files are then downloaded onto a person's device, meaning that any one movie could exist on millions of computers around the world, shared through one website. Because media piracy directly affects the amount of revenue coming into a studio, like Disney or Apple, there have been major crackdowns on piracy activity online. Promotional videos and media have been created, saying things like, "You wouldn't steal a car, so why pirate a movie?" Additionally, the physical buildings housing servers like Pirate Bay and BitTorrent have been raided in the past by police, and the maintainers of those websites have faced legal charges. And finally, onto my research process and conclusion. Over the course of researching my project, I uncovered more and more fascinating topics regarding the sociological, legal, and cultural factors surrounding media, and streaming services specifically, but for my TED Talk, I chose to only include things that related to or answered my research question. A couple takeaways I have from this project are the realizations that technology and media are constantly shifting and evolving, and the way that we interact with them as well. And with that, I ask you these questions. Is piracy okay? And if so, to what degree? How have streaming services changed the way that you interact with media? Are you impatient, waiting to consume an entire story at one time? And when was the last time you supported a small, independent business instead of Disney or Netflix? Thank you for watching, and have a nice day.